All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to That's So Random with your host, Doc Anthony Bravo. And on occasions, I like to say Doc One. For those who know, I've done music before, and while doing music, I was under the name Doc One. Bam, right there. If you didn't notice, there was a new entrance theme song called Doc One's Official, and that's a chorus to a new song that I'm working on, obviously called Doc One's Official. And yeah, we're trying something new every day. Listen, every day we're trying something new. If you're not trying something new every day, you're not trying. A person like myself who is, I guess, an entrepreneur, a person who's trying to be successful on different outlets, different type of media, I'm looking for everything to be a part of. And I want to say that's a good thing and a bad thing. Well, I think it's a good thing overall because some of the best advice I've ever gotten in life was nobody's going to know your face unless you show it. And that's what I try to do all day, every day. And I'm glad to say that today we're actually filming. And I got two different angles. I got one right ahead of me and one, an up tilt, and hopefully this will look good. I don't have to do a lot of edits, but there's a lot of strange cuts, because if anything, I'll go from camera 1 to camera 2, and we'll switch it up. So, hopefully your week was amazing. Mine was pretty dope. I have to admit that usually I record these episodes Wednesday, I edit them Thursday, so Friday morning they're ready to go. But yesterday I worked a double at my job, and I never work an overnight shift. I never work what they call graves, and I did a grave shift, and let me tell you, I regretted the moment that I realized that I had to work it, and I'm like, great, but I'm doing it for a good cause. Obviously, my youngest daughter, her birthday is coming up, and I have a lot of family coming in, and I want to make sure that nothing is needed during her birthday, and I want to be able to make sure that she got everything she needs. So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about a few things. One is self-improvement. I feel like self-improvement goes hand to hand with mental health, because when you try to improve yourself, it definitely helps with your mental health. If you look good, you feel good, mental health is on point. Obviously, if you look trashy, a person like me, I shave my head. If you see the hair growing, 5 o'clock shadow, then I've had a rough week. That goes along with self-improvement. Another way I like to tackle self-improvement, I like to read books about philosophy, different philosophers such as Nietzsche, Plato, Socrates, and try to use philosophy to help improve my way of thinking, improve my way of decision making. I've always been of the mindset, never stop questioning things. Similar to the game of chess, I'm always thinking 10 steps ahead. So philosophy helps you and encourages you to do critical thinking. Philosophy teaches us how to question assumptions, examine arguments, and recognize logical tactics. It helps us better analyze complex situations, avoid common bias, and makes us more rational and less emotional when it comes to decision making. And that's something I've always felt I need to improve. One thing about me as a young kid, I had a lot of anger issues, and I would always make decisions emotionally. And after learning how to overcome these obstacles in life, where I learned how to step back and look at the whole picture, to really understand what's in front of me, to help me make better decisions, not based on my emotions. We're all human. We can all understand that sometimes in the heat of the moment, we'll make a rash decision, which can impact our lives. And I'm talking about the most worst case scenario. You get into a confrontation, get caught up in the heat of the moment, boom, you do something you weren't supposed to, or you do something that you wouldn't have done if you would have just taking the minute to step back, look at the whole picture, analyze your options to make your decision. That's something I had to learn throughout life with trial and error. And I'm proud to say that I am a person now that I like to step back and look at everything before I make a decision. I live by logic, I live by rationality, and I feel that that's one way you can improve yourself, which also helps out with mental health. Now, before some of you go, whoa, there are two different things, let me explain how mental health and self-help coincide with each other. Mental health, you sometimes get caught in a pattern, in a cycle, which can cause a spiral. We've all been there, downward spiral. We sometimes experience something negatively and we hang on to it, and then we spiral out of control. And we ride that ride. We ride it till we hit rock bottom. And then once we're there, we realize, man, I could have handled that differently. I could have taken a different approach. I could have said something better. I could have not said that. And in this category, we're going to break all of that down. Before we do, I just want to definitely make a quick disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist, psychiatrist, nutritionist, anything that involves a PhD in regards to mental health, self-improvement, or nutrition, because we're also going to get into the topic of dieting. Self-improvement, you feel good, you look good, good vibes. With that being said, I'm just a guy who's living, who's learning, and as I get older, still learning new ways to improve myself, improve my mental health, and improve my life overall. Take what I say with a grain of salt. If you want to see a professional, seek out a professional. I can only give you my point of views and my experience on mental health, dieting, and self-improvement. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. Obviously, on the show, That's So Random, I have no proper script. I have notes with certain things that I want to talk about, because obviously as a person with ADHD, sometimes it'll pop in and pop right out within the same second. So there'll be times that you see me look down on my notes or see me look up something for research purposes. I want to make sure that anything I put out on my podcast or in life, that it's a fact. That if you look it up, it's like, okay, he's telling the truth. This isn't a lie. Let's start with, when does self-improvement become a full-time job? Everywhere you look, reels, podcasts, YouTube shorts, it's discipline over motivation, no days off, get 1% better every day. And I get it. Growth is dope. Evolution is necessary. Evolving is a part of life. Obviously, that's how we got here with evolution. But sometimes we're not growing. And our mental health, along with ourselves, we're like a flower. We need to be nurtured. We need the sunlight. We need the water. We need the rain to grow. And sometimes it might not look pretty, but we're growing. And eventually we'll get to that final phase where we've reached the pinnacle of where we're trying to be, the summit of this mountain called life. You wake up and tell yourself, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to drink lemon water, stretch, do a journal, hit the gym, prep a meal, read 10 pages of a book, post a reel, email, kind of give yourself this routine. Then all of a sudden you kind of fade out, like it burns out, and you just go back to sleep. You have all this confidence, and then when the day comes, you don't live up to it. Similar to my opening story of, I took an overtime shift that was overnights, and I'm a person, I never do overnights. I work in the morning, I live my life during the afternoon, and I go to bed at a reasonable time. I never go to sleep in the same day. I sometimes stay up past, midnight, and I'm falling asleep the same day that I gotta wake up to go to work. But my body can handle that. I've been doing it for the last 10 years in the same job that I have now. So when I try to do something out of the ordinary, my body's like, what are we doing, bro? Last night, working this overnight shift, by 4 o'clock, my body was like, all right, good night, moon. And it's just shutting down, and I'm fighting to stay up because I know once that sun comes out, my mind automatically goes, oh wait, hold up, this is our time we're supposed to be up. Never mind, turn everything back on. So once I get over that hump of 4 a.m., 5 a.m., I'm good to go. But here we are doing that so random stuff where I'm find a tangent and I jump to it, jumping off course. But let's get back on to what we're talking about. You know, you wake up with a routine. You want to do that new lifestyle thing, and you fall flat because that motivation disappears. But one thing that I've learned is you need to find it within yourself to do it every day to get to that end goal. Nothing worth having is going to come easy. It's not going to be cheap. You're going to have to work for what you want. Now, everything I'm saying here falls perfectly in line with the self-improvement and the mental health. Let me explain. So, in the beginning of the year, in January, I was at a different location of my job. I was in one location, same department, security, and then I transferred over to a different one. And over there, I wasn't happy. So my mental health was not up to par with what I was doing every day, 9 to 5, right? So with that, my mental health was declining, and I was eating everything under the sun to feel better, to be happy. I would eat Swiss rolls, honey buns, ice cream, fried chicken, a copious amounts of rice. As a kid, rice was my go-to. I absolutely love it. My youngest loves rice as well, but she's a young kid. That metabolism is gonna burn it off quick. Me, not so much. That rice will stick around for a bit. But my mental health wasn't where I wanted it to be, so food kept me happy. Once I transferred to my new location, it's like the weight lifted. No pun intended, but right after that, the weight dropped too. I was in a new position. I was in a new location, fresh start. I needed to improve myself. I was close to 300 pounds at the time, and last year I tried to work out and be healthy, eat healthy, and I never sought professionals to help me do that the right way. I made the mistake of trying to lose weight while gaining muscle, which is gaining weight. As much as I was working out, my weight never dropped. So it was discouraging, and I felt like I needed to work out harder, going past my boundaries, past my limit, to the point where I actually ended up hurting myself. That also contributed to me gaining weight, to then, getting to that 300 pounds. I'm like, man, I can't even work out anymore because I hurt myself. And then finally, I did research, and I found a diet that worked with me. I found what's called, I believe, the carnivore diet, where you eat protein and high fiber. That means that now you have to go shopping and look at the nutritional facts. You have to look at what the food is made of, what are the ingredients, but also see if it has high fiber, low cholesterol, sodium, sugar, stuff like that. So I ended up going on this carnivore diet, and I was getting steaks, chopping them up, seasoning them, and just grilling them, then putting them like on a keto tortilla. Me being Mexican, listen, tortillas are always a go-to for me. And I would just eat steak wrapped up in a tortilla, no sauce, no nothing, just, the seasoning on the steak, boom, done. And if you are gonna put some type of like sauce, make sure that it also falls in line with what you're trying to accomplish. Make sure it's something that your body can break down easily, not a lot of preservatives, no sugars, something that falls in line with what you're trying to accomplish. Because then you fall into that situation of 1 step forward, 10 steps back. Me, I kept it simple. I just ate steak on a tortilla, and that was literally my lunch and dinner. Then for breakfast, the same tortilla with an egg. And if I had some ground beef, threw that in there, boom. Certain cheese, they help you with the diet as well. You can throw some cheese on there. So I did that for about 4 months, And I went from about 297 to my current weight of 239. Some of you are like, whoa, listen, it worked for me. I was able to lose the weight. But not only that, at my job, I'm also a bike officer. I do security. Those of you who know I do security for a really well-known theme park. And I have the best job. Listen, regardless of what I experience in the other location, till this day, for the last 10 years, I feel like I have the best job in the world. I go to a place where people wait their whole lives to go. Some people save up their whole lives for one day at this theme park. And listen, the theme park I work at might not have a slogan of dreams come true, but trust me, this place, you step into it, it's pretty epic. But I'm not going to say anything else. You just pick up what I'm putting down when I talk about what theme park I work for. But I have the opportunity to ride a bike. I get paid to do cardio. Whether I'm walking around, patrolling, keeping the guests safe, or I'm riding a bike, riding the perimeter of the park, making sure nobody's trying to climb over or get through gates, and everything's in line with our policy and our rules. So again, I absolutely love my job because it works with my schedule, it works with my parenting plan and my kids' schedule. And currently, as of June 26, 2025, my current management team at my location is one of the greatest of all time. I couldn't have asked for a better team. From the management to the supervisors to the team captains to the sergeants. I would go to the ends of the world for this team because they know and they appreciate a good officer when they have it. And that's all we want when we go to work, appreciation. And this is why my mental health wasn't good at the other location. Once I got here, I got with a team that saw my potential, saw what I brought to the table, and was like, let's cook, baby. Let's do it. I'm very grateful for my management team. If they happen to listen to this, see, guys, I love you. Just saying. Anyway, back on to the self-improvement part. So, to wrap up the part of dieting, if you have certain medical conditions, if you have certain dietary needs, reach out to a nutritionist, even your own doctor, on how can you lose weight and change up your diet where it won't affect any medical condition you might have or dietary needs. Now, back on to the self-improvement when it comes to your mental health and philosophers. So in the world of philosophy, it teaches you how to look at every point of a discussion, of a topic. In the last few weeks, I've read a book. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but it says The Complete Philosopher's Book, I believe it's called. I'll put it in the description once I remember or if I find it. But pretty much it has a compilation of different philosophers and their best work. I think every day you start off with a positive mindset. It sets the day for the rest of your day. If you start your day off with a negative mindset, a negative vibe, guess what? Everything else is going to be negative. And I can't deny it. I've experienced things in life where one negative thing happens and I live on that for the rest of the day, and everything else just boom, 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 negative, 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 and it destroys my mental health. So if you can change the way you think, the way you go about life, and the way you see things, I feel can directly impact your mental health. An example, sometimes I'm driving and I'll have a person going slow in the left lane. For those who don't know, the left lane is meant for passing. It should be for people who need to get somewhere a lot faster than the people in the middle or in the right. I, sometimes in this lovely city of Orlando, experience people who don't understand that the left lane is for passing and not for you to have meaningful text conversations while holding up traffic. If you've ever experienced traffic in Orlando, it's very, very painful because it just feels like you can never get through it fast enough because you'll have somebody in the left lane texting, enjoying life while holding up traffic, and then you got all the people following the rules of the road in their proper lane. And when you got somewhere to go, listen, it piles up, okay? point blank, it piles up. I'll try to pass this person in the left lane, holding everything up. But then I'll move to another lane that seems to be going faster, and guess what? Now they're going slow. So now you're further back than what you were originally when you were behind the person going slow in the left lane. Now you're even more upset because you're like, man, if I would have just stayed over there, I could have passed them. Me not having patience, I tried to bypass them. I got to a lane that was going slower, and now I'm going slower than I originally was. And that can ruin your whole afternoon. Trust me, I've been there. Now I'm to the point where if I can leave the house a little earlier, where I don't feel like I'm in a rush, I enjoy life. You know, I ride behind the person going slow. Opportunity comes where I can switch lane and pass them, I take it. If they want to take their time texting them and driving, which is pretty dangerous, I'm going to ride that ride. I'm not going to let it stress me because I'm not going to let one person dictate the whole day for me. This is why philosophy is a big part of my life, because then I can look at something from a different standpoint, different aspect, and see what decisions I can make that can benefit everybody. If I can leave a little earlier from my house, where I'm not in a rush, then when it comes to me, the road rage is non-existent. I'm not letting the person who's going slow dictate my mood for the rest of the day. I'm like, it is what it is. They're going slow, I'll go slow too. Another way that philosophy definitely helps out with my mental health, especially as a security officer at a theme park. I don't know if you've ever seen a situation go down at a theme park with a disorderly guest, but a disorderly guest will say the most extreme things to get under your skin. I already had thick skin growing up in New York City. Elementary school, middle school, and high school, kids weren't nice. And you either grew tough skin and dealt with it and learned how to clap back at somebody trying to insult your family, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother. You had to learn how to overcome that or deal with it. Unfortunately, at work, I can't deal with it the way I would have dealt with it back in my high school days. I'm a grown adult and I'm getting paid to do a job. I can't put my hands on a person because they said something disrespectful about my mother or a family member. I like to call myself the roast king. For those who don't know, roast is where you insult somebody constantly by insulting them. And usually you can do this joking around. Obviously, if you watch Comedy Central, they have the Comedy Central roast. When I experience guests who are being kicked out because they're being disorderly and they're not following the rules, the policies, the procedures of how we do things at the theme park, we have to kick them out. So obviously they're upset and they're gonna say the most disrespectful things to you ever. Now, if you don't have tough skin, you're either gonna lose your job or you're gonna lose your mind and start crying. I've had the most disrespectful things said to me about family members, especially when it comes to like my mom. One time I had to kick a person out for being disorderly verbally against other employees. We had to tell him, hey, you got to go for the day. And he didn't want to leave, so then we had to involve law enforcement. Now they have to go. So at this point, they're walking, but they're saying the most disrespectful things to you. I'm a person that you can't say anything to me that's going to get under my skin. When I'm at work and a person's like, your mother does this, your mother does that, I look at them and go, oh my goodness, I never knew that about my mother. Thank you you are so nice. My mom keeps a lot of secrets from me because, man, I never knew she did that. And I don't let them get under my skin. I actually roll with it. I'm like, she does what? Oh my goodness, Mom, I have to call her after this. You know what, sir? After we kick you out of this establishment, I'm going to go call my mom and be like, yo, Mom, how does this guy know so much about your private life? This is wild. And they hate that. They hate that because they're not getting to the core of you. Now, when you let somebody get to the core of you, you're satisfying them. That's what they want. They thrive off of that because they know that you're about to lose your mind. And that's how they can try to defeat you. Similar to a narcissist. So if you don't let them get to the core of you, you don't let them mentally disrupt your mood, your day, or your temper, you're untouchable. And this is why philosophy and mental health go hand in hand. Self-help, self-improvement can help that journey. But when you're not careful, it can turn into fix yourself or you're failing. And that's something you don't want to do. So this is why philosophy helps you with self-improvement and mental health. Now, I feel like we've talked about that a lot. You know, we were on that topic a lot. I rambled on. But just to summarize everything, philosophy can help with mental health, self-improvement, obviously eating healthier, eating better, light workouts can definitely help out with losing weight and feeling better about yourself. If you want to look into it, reach out to a professional. I am not a professional. I'm just giving you what I've experienced in life and how it has helped me along the way. Now, our next topic is writing. Again, for those of you who are brand new to this podcast and don't know, I am a writer. I'm a songwriter, a lyricist, a poet, a screenwriter, songwriter. I'm not sure if I said that twice, but point is, I write. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, Doc1, D-O-C space 1, numerical 1. And you can find my music on there. Haven't really put anything out lately. I've been working on stuff. Obviously, the chorus at the beginning of today's episode is from my new song, which I'll put out later on in the year. Now, if you go to IMDb and you look up Doc Anthony Bravo, you'll also see that I've written movies, I've acted in movies, and I've won an award. If I actually do get to post up this video, I'd cut right here, and when I come back, I'd have my OIF Best Actor Award. Now, if you listen to my first episode ever, I mentioned OIF, originally the Orlando Independent Filmmakers, but now that we've expanded to Tampa, Los Angeles, New York, it's now being referred to as the Organization of Independent Filmmakers. If you follow me on social media, you would know that I write a lot. And I'm a big fan of Hamilton. I'm a big fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda. I actually have it tattooed right there. Young, scrappy, and hungry. I'm always writing. There's never a day that I don't write. And I'm literally writing like I'm running out of time. Time is valuable, and you never want to waste time. So if you ever find yourself doing nothing, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in life, go working on it. Don't let a single minute pass by and you're standing still. If I have free time, I'm either working on a project, I'm editing, finding new ways to edit, or I'm writing. So when I do have gaps in my day where I have some time, if it's not a lot of time, then I just get to writing. Because then I can just stop, put it down, and pick it up later if I have to jump into something else right after that. Like at work, my 30-minute break, boom. After I eat, I write. And then I can put it down and go back to work. Obviously, I can't bring my laptop to work, edit a film, because if I get caught up in a project, trust me, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to just stay on that break, and that's going to cause me problems later on. Back to the topic at hand. Now, my writing techniques stems from my life experiences. Sometimes I'll think of an idea or a topic that I'm like, man, I want to write about this. And I first go back to my life, and I think to myself, have I experienced something similar to this that I can pick from and start writing it, and eventually build out my treatment, build out the story. From the story, taking the characters, thinking of how they would talk, their dialect, their vocabulary, and kind of go building each character and writing their dialogue and how each character would talk and how their conversations would be carried, pretty much. Also, to go side by side with mental health, writing can sometimes be therapy. One thing about writing that goes back to philosophy and mental health is if something got you upset, right? And you got into an argument. You said things off of pure emotion. Now the dust has settled and you start thinking to yourself, man, I shouldn't have said that. You can take that experience and put it on paper. This is why my writing technique, I use real life experiences. If I had an argument where I feel like I could have said something better, I should have left something unsaid, I can take that and put it into a script where two characters are having a similar situation and now improve what was done and then write how it could have been better to make that scene better. Great example for taking real life situations to make your story or your writing better. I wrote a short film for an OIF challenge called Finding Love on Dia de los Muertos. My character, Carlos, is a hopeless romantic. He has the worst luck with relationships. My female best friend, Molly, played by the talented Chelsea Wolfe, her coworker is going through a breakup. She's distraught, and she makes a comment of all guys being a-holes, which Molly then goes, they might all be a-holes, but my best friend is a sweetheart. He's like one of the best guys ever. And you can kind of start seeing that Molly has secret feelings for her best friend, Carlos. But she keeps it on the wraps. You know, they've been best friends since they were like in 5th grade, and now they're grown adults and still haven't admitted to each other that they have feelings for each other. This film was selected into multiple film festivals because the climax of the film is a conversation between Molly and Carlos. They're kind of opening up and admitting to each other the feelings they've had for each other since they were in 5th grade. I took real life situations and put it into this conversation, which made the conversation more powerful. And that just made the whole thing even more entertaining, and you got sucked into that scene because of how powerful the conversation, the back and forth between Molly and Carlos, and how real it felt because it came from a real place. So if you're trying to improve yourself as a writer, my writing techniques, my advice to you is to take real life situations and also write about what you know. If you never grew up in a ghetto neighborhood or the inner city like Los Angeles, New York City, if you've never grown up in that environment, do not write about how rough it was. If you don't know what it's like, you cannot put out something that people can relate to if you've never experienced it. So if you grew up in a suburb, middle class area where argument is the biggest fight you've seen, then you cannot write about something you've never experienced. You can listen to all the Tupac songs you want, all the Biggie songs, all the Wu-Tang you want, but that's only gonna give you the ingredients, but you don't know the formula to create something that people can relate to unless you've experienced it. I would say if you're starting off as a writer, start off with what you know. As you develop as a writer, start learning new techniques, then you can start doing research. If you have a friend that lives in an inner city that grew up in a rough neighborhood, have them take you so you can see what it's like firsthand, boots on the ground. See what it's like growing up in a neighborhood where the odds were stacked against you. And then maybe you can write something that's authentic to what you're trying to put on the big screen. Another thing, if you're gonna write about something and you don't know about it, research. You always want to research what you're writing about because people aren't going to be able to relate to it who have experienced. If you try to tell a story with something you've never experienced, nobody's going to feel it. Going back to one of the first films I've ever did, it's called Stargazing. It's a sci-fi fantasy film, and my character ends up going into a dream world, and he finds the girl of his dreams. And when my character meets the girl of his dream, you know, he starts asking her questions about the world that they're in, because it feels like the real world that he's from, but he's in a dream. So I had to do research on sleep studies, certain terminologies. The girl's name in the film was called Lucid. So obviously lucid dreaming. I had to research who came up with the term lucid. Where did we get lucid dreaming from? Who was the person that researched this? And I involved that into the conversation that Lucid had with the main character. Now, before I say the main character's name, I sometimes like to take a character from one film and put them in another film. So the main character of Stargazing, his name was Carlos. And because of how that film ended is why we have Finding Love on Dia de los Muertos. Because obviously he found the girl of his dreams and it didn't work out too well for him. So this is why when we see Carlos in Finding Love on Dia de los Muertos, he's had bad luck with relationships. He actually has the same outfit on. I took the same shirt I wore from Stargazing and wore it on Finding Love on Dia de los Muertos. Now, the last segment of the day, we're not going to do sports, not going to do wrestling. Some of you were actually nice enough to send me some questions that I can answer on the podcast. So this is going to be called That's So Random Rapid Fire. Taking a few of the questions, because some of them were just like, how is this even relevant to the show or to what I do? And I get it. That's so random. And it's a random question, but it was just something that I didn't feel like I can answer honestly. No, not at all. Okay, the first question we have is what's one self-improvement mental health technique you can start off with to start your day better? I would say take a sticky note and write words of affirmation, inspirational quotes. And before you go to bed, put them in places you know you'll be in the morning. Put them in the bathroom mirror, on your refrigerator, on the door, your car door, your dashboard, your steering wheel. That way, as you make your way from your bedroom, get dressed, come downstairs, have breakfast, you're reading positive notes and getting bits and pieces of positivity into your mindset to then set your day on a positive note. So that's one way I feel like you can start off with a positive mindset. Question number 2, how do you stay consistent with routines? So, that's a really tough question to answer because I barely stay consistent. But when it comes to like diets or eating habits, I try to stay in that routine of sticking to the meal that has been helping me lose weight. It wasn't hard to stick to that routine. It wasn't hard to stay consistent. Now, the routine of working out, now that's a tough one because I'm a very busy person. I actually get all my workout done at work. So I get paid to work out. From walking around a theme park to riding a bike. That routine is pretty simple when you're getting paid to do it. But outside of work, once I get home, I am focused on projects. When you have ADHD, the most important thing is going to be in your line of sight. So obviously if I have a project coming up, I have a deadline, I have a submission date, I focus on that, knowing that I have a time limit. No time wasted, so I take every opportunity to work on it. So that's how I stay consistent with that. The level of importance. Obviously when it comes to my kids, they are the tip-top importance. Once I get home, if my kids aren't busy watching their favorite television programs or playing with their toys, I'm focused on them. It's not hard to stay in the routine of interacting with my kids because they are important to me. That's how I stay consistent with being an active father because they are important to me. I stay consistent with my projects because those are important to me. The level of importance is what determines how consistent I stay with routines. Cardio, working out, I've already did a lot of that at work. I'm not going to continue that at home. So I don't stay consistent with that. Some weeks I'm on it. Some weeks I'm trying to figure it out. And that's okay. Okay, my last question. What's one writing exercise that changed your life? When I first started writing songs, I was about like 15 years old, and I would listen to the melody of the instrumental, the beat. I would try to hit the words that rhyme with the BPMs. And now I would just write those words and say, for example, catch, hatch, stash, scratch, right? And then I'd fill in words that went with rhythm and fell perfectly in place with that word, and it just went with the beat. It flowed good. The sentence rhymed well. And that was one exercise I had to learn. How to make words rhyme and flow with a beat. That's one writing exercise that definitely helped out. One writing exercise that helped me with writing scripts is I would always think back to conversations I've had with people and just remember how they said certain things and try to apply that to the character and use the dynamic that I had with that person in that conversation in the scene with the two characters. And then eventually it just became second nature. But I feel like this was a great episode overall. I know I rambled on a lot. A lot of information was said. Hopefully the advice I've given you, if you're trying to improve your health, your mental health, your self-improvement, helps you achieve the goals you want to achieve, because I'm all about achieving goals and helping you, the listener, the viewer, get the ingredients to create your own formula to get the final result that you want. Thank you for spending time with me and listening to the podcast. I really do appreciate every listener that chimes in to listen to what I have to say. And that's it for today. My closing thoughts is just remember, you're allowed to be a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time. Rest is part of the plan. I know I said that you don't want to waste time, but resting, recuperating, and recharging is not wasting time. It's necessary for your mental health and your self-improvement. So if you're resting, recuperating, and just trying to recharge your batteries, don't think of it as a waste of time. Now, if you spent all day in bed and you're not sick, you got things to do. But get a good night's rest at the same time. Also, healing is not a race. There is no real finish line to healing. I talk for myself when I say there's a lot that's left to be healed when it comes to Doc Anthony Bravo here. But I take every day and tackle one challenge at a time. And I try to heal parts of me that have been wanting to be healed for the longest time. And like I said, it's not a race. Take on what you can manage and tackle it when it's in front of you. Once you do that, move on to the next. Also, if you really vibed with today's episode and you feel like you're enjoying my podcast a little bit more, because now I'm going into different things that don't relate to wrestling or sports, please feel free to share it with somebody who might need self-improvement talk, the mental health talk. I'm always here to help the next person. So please share this episode with somebody who might need to hear this message. Don't be afraid to email me or even DM me about your routines on self-improvement, self-care habits, or even your writing routines, or if you just want to say what's up. Listen, I'm always down for a good conversation. Thank you for joining me on That's So Random, where it's never just one thing. It's a million things at once, especially when you're like me with ADHD. I'm your host, like always, Doc1, aka Doc Anthony Bravo. Stay safe, stay growing, stay random, and be happy. Watch these